In a Sicilian vineyard, a crime lord named Lorenzo Vitali discovers a bunch of dead bodies scattered around. Intrigued and probably concerned, he heads inside. There, he finds 3 of his men have Robert McCall seated with a gun to his head. McCall explains that he's on a mission to reclaim something that was taken without permission. McCall gives Vitali's crew a 9-second ultimatum to step back. Predictably, things escalate into a confrontation, with McCall swiftly and decisively dealing with 3 of Vitali's henchmen. Vitali himself, now wounded, crawls away. However, McCall isn't done yet. Seizing a shotgun, he corners Vitali and delivers a final, fatal blow, putting an end to the crime lord's life. As McCall is walking away with a bag, he notices Vitali's grandson observing him. Cautioning the boy to stay put in the car, McCall's peaceful exit takes an unexpected turn. The young grandson, driven by some motive, shoots McCall in the leg and runs away. Despite the injury, McCall manages to drive a considerable distance before he loses consciousness. Providentially, Officer Gio Benucci stumbles upon him. Acting quickly, Gio takes McCall to the local doctor in their town, Enzo Arizio. In a discreet conversation, Enzo instructs Gio to explain McCall's condition as a result of a simple fall if anyone asks. After a few days of unconsciousness, McCall awakens to find himself in the town of Altamont. Enzo, the local doctor who has taken him in, becomes a friend and helps secure a place for him to stay. McCall also forms connections with Gio, the town's officer, and Joe's daughter, Gabby. McCall gradually becomes a familiar face at the local cafe, forging a friendship with Amina, one of the employees. Despite the warmth of these newfound relationships, McCall grapples with a profound sense of uncertainty about his own moral standing when Enzo poses the question of whether he's a good or bad man. McCall responds with ambiguity, unsure of his own nature. Haunted by memories of his late friend Susan Plummer, McCall finds himself tormented by recollections of how he systematically eliminated the men at the vineyard. McCall, driven by a sense of justice, decides to reach out to the Defense Intelligence Agency (DA) to share the information he found at the Sicilian vineyard. He speaks with Emma Collins and discreetly provides her with details, urging an investigation. Collins, along with her partner Frank Conroy, assembles a team and follows the lead to the vineyard. To their surprise, the team discovers a substantial sum of €11 million and a large stash of narcotics at the site. The investigation takes an unexpected turn, revealing the extent of the criminal operations McCall had stumbled upon. Collins, realizing the significance of McCall's intel, eventually traces him to Altamont. From there, a communication channel is established between McCall and Collins as they exchange information and insights regarding the discoveries at the vineyard. In the market of Altamont, a thug named Marco Quaranta creates a scene at a fish vendor's stall, harassing a man named Angelo. Marco's demands are forceful, and he leaves Angelo with a clear ultimatum for their next encounter. The Quaranta brothers, Marco and Vincent, exert control over Altamont through their affiliation with the Camorra, a notorious mafia group. Marco's intimidating tactics extend beyond the market as he pays a visit to Vincent during a meeting with a couple who refuses to sign over their building so that Vincent may run a hotel. Vincent responds to the couple's resistance by gruesomely throwing the wheelchair-bound father from a window, leaving his lifeless body as a grim warning for other residents. Gio receives a phone call notifying him that his daughter, Gabby, left school early. Alarmed, he inquires with her teacher, who reveals that one of his officers took her. Panic-stricken, Gio rushes home, only to discover a distressing scene. Gabby and his wife Chiara are held captive by Marco and his henchmen. In a tense confrontation, Marco and his goons make it clear that they have leverage over Gio through his family. The threat becomes palpable as they issue warnings, coercing Gio to stay out of their business. At night, McCall observes a commotion as people scramble in response to the alarming sound of a ringing bell. His attention is drawn to Angelo's shop, now engulfed in flames. Angelo and his wife, helpless, can only watch as their livelihood is consumed by the fire. Amidst the chaos, McCall notices Marco and his cohorts observing the destructive scene from a distance. Collins, having received critical information from McCall, becomes skeptical when she sees a news report attributing a terrorist attack in Rome to Syrian terrorists. Despite the drugs found at the vineyard being linked to Syria, Collins is reluctant to accept this explanation, suspecting a more intricate plot at play. She confides in Conroy, expressing her belief that the incident is part of a larger, orchestrated plan. The terrorist attack in Rome is revealed to be a strategic move in furtherance of their plan. Collins, determined to get closer to the truth, finds herself dangerously close to an explosion in the city. Miraculously surviving, she is hospitalized, underscoring the high stakes involved in uncovering the conspiracy and the lengths to which those behind it will go to protect their interests. Marco goes to a restaurant where Gio is having dinner with his family in an attempt to get him to get boats from Somalis. Marco then notices McCall staring at him and he goes to confront him. McCall lets him know clearly what will happen if he does not stop his threats against the family, so he grabs Marco's wrist and compresses a nerve in his hand that causes him pain until he gets his goons out of the restaurant. Outside, Marco plans to retaliate, but one of his goons gets run over by a van as the driver, another goon, has already been killed by McCall. He kills the last goon before fighting Marco, breaking his arm and getting him to stab himself to death. After Vincent learns of his brother's death, he is visited by Chief Barella, who seemingly aligns himself with the Camorra. In a tense exchange, Barella issues threats that escalate the situation. In an act of defiance, or perhaps desperation, Vincent stabs his own hand. The confrontation intensifies as Vincent's goon is ordered to sever Barella's hand before sending him to the hospital for reattachment. Vincent, now fueled by both grief and a desire for revenge, formulates plans to retaliate against those he perceives as threats. In a harrowing turn of events, Vincent and his goons descend upon Altamont, launching a brutal attack on Gio. Their menacing presence is marked by gunfire near Joe's ear, along with explicit threats to harm him and his family unless the murderer of his brother shows up. In a moment of high tension, McCall steps forward, offering himself as a target to spare the others. The confrontation escalates, and just as Vincent is about to kill McCall, Enzo intervenes, firing a rifle to protect McCall. The sudden turn of events shifts the balance, and the residents, galvanized by the threat to their town, take action. They record the villains' actions, forcing them to flee before the police arrives. Vincent returns to his compound and begins to make plans to attack Altamont the next day. Unfortunately for them, McCall has found them first and begins to pick them off. Vincent wakes up when one of his goons' blood drips on him from the ceiling before the body crashes through the glass. Vincent tries to run away but ends up knocked out by McCall. When he wakes up, he finds that McCall has given him a lethal dose of the drugs found at the vineyard, giving him a few minutes before his heart gives out. Vincent attempts to run into the street with McCall slowly walking behind him, and he ends up hit by a car. The crime lord stumbles a little further before he finally expires. In a quieter moment, McCall pays a visit to the hospital where Collins is recovering. In a candid admission, he reveals to her the true motive behind his journey to Sicily, a mission to recover pension money stolen from someone he knew that had it stolen by the criminals. As a gesture of both transparency and justice, McCall leaves Collins with a bag filled with money. In Boston, Collins takes it upon herself to personally deliver the recovered pension money to the man McCall was referring to. Visiting the man and his wife, she witnesses their emotional gratitude. The act not only brings closure to the victims but also reinforces the impact of McCall's vigilant efforts. Upon returning to work, Collins is surprised to receive a little black book from McCall containing details about all his personal gatherings. Accompanying the book is a note that reads, "Your mother would be so proud of you." As she gazes at a photograph on her desk, the revelation unfolds. Collins is Susan's daughter. McCall stays in Altamont and joins them in celebrating the victory of their football team.